Well, today we got ourselves a German Paratrooper knife in for repairs. Normally I don't work on knives, but the repairs that this needs are something I think within my range of abilities, so I agreed to do it. It's going to be an interesting project. It's in pretty good shape. It's got wooden grips on it, which you can see are held on with pins or rivets, if you will. It's chrome plated in all the other areas. No visible screws or anything like that. Got a little bit of chrome loss over here on the edge, but that's not what it's in for. You can see when I turn it, all the pins, especially in that front part near my fingers, you can see all the pins showing up. The heads of those pins, as they polished them, they made them fit nice and flush, and then they polished them. But being that they're a different type of steel than the plating is, that's why they show up at certain angles. But anyway, what it's in here for is the regular blade operates just by gravity, and it's got a few little marks on the edge, but once again, that's not what it's here for. What we're going to do to this one, the other blade on this thing is just an awl or a pick, I suppose, for untying knots in their rigging and their parachute rigging, because this is apparently a paratrooper's knife. But you can see the blade has no life to it, and that's because the spring just fell out. That's what it's here for. Let me get this out of the way. The spring, get that back in there, lean this up against here. The spring drops right in there. Now, you can see originally how this was built. Get that back in there where it should be. Okay. You can see how this was built. Get this in the right angle. You can see more of those blind pins I was talking about. You can see one right there. And you can see two here. There's one there, and there's one right where that spring is broken. That's that spring right there. You can see right where that spring is busted. Well, there's the end of that spring right there. You can see the seam. I mean, it's a nice fit. It fits this next piece very nicely, but you can see that seam right there. So that spring is actually from there all the way around and underneath a little bit. So it came in for a repair, and I looked at it, and I wasn't quite sure which way to fix it. And I thought about maybe possibly just welding it in here, but that would be a nightmare trying to weld it in place, and you'd burn things and distort things, and it wouldn't be a strong repair anyway. So what I decided to do was remove it, take it out, and make a whole new spring. But that has its own unique problems because of these pins. Obviously these pins, the head of these pins is down underneath. That was all done before these panels were put on. Well, we're not going to remove the panels. I'm not going to grind these pins out and mess with that and possibly ruin this knife. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in with an end mill, and we're going to just talk to the heads of these pins, or they're almost like a rivet because they've been peened over. They must have been a little bit too long, then they peened them over, and they ground them flush, and they polished it all. In fact, if you look at the spring, I'm going to pull the spring back out again, you'll see that the need three hands to do this. Okay. The spring, if you look, you can see it's a little bit, I don't know if you can see that, that hole doesn't go all the way through. It almost goes all the way through, but not quite. Can you see that? So it's like a pocket. So, the head of that rivet came up through there, the head of that pin came up through there, and then they peened it, and it just filled in that void, that big space, and then they polished it flat. So what I'm going to have to do is drill just the head. I'll drill down just until I reach that little, just so I can get the head of that rivet. Just take the end mill and just go down whatever that is, that few thou, until I eliminate the head of the rivet. So there'll still be this shaft of the rivet, but at least the head will be gone, and this piece can then be released. And same with there. Get that out of my way. We've got that other one then. See, there's the one that's going to have to be drilled out. You can see that one pin right there. Right there, you can see it. See it? Then there's that second one right there. So, end mill, end mill. Then I can get this piece out of there. But that piece is still trapped in there from that seam. You can see that seam right there. That seam right there. That piece over. And then we'll duplicate that spring. There's no other issues or problems with this knife. So then we'll go ahead and we'll duplicate this spring. You know, once again, remember, it's going to have a little bit of a longer tail on it once we get that, you know, that piece is still in there. So we'll make a whole new spring, and we'll fit it, and then I'll take it and have it tempered so it become basically spring steel, and then we'll reinstall it. And there's going to be stubs. There's going to be little stubs of these pins left. They're going to still be sticking up a little bit. So I'll position the new spring over that, and the new spring will have holes in it. So those little stubs will be sticking up through the bottom of this hole, if you will. You'll see it down in the bottom of the hole. You'll see that little stub sticking up through there. So then we'll go in there and we'll TIG weld that, because we won't be able to repin it or repin it or re-rivet it, or because we can't get to the head of those rivets. You know, the heads of these rivets are down inside here somewhere, and we're not about to start digging. So that should work real good. I'm confident that system will work. We've got the right kind of steel chosen. That'll be a nice spring steel once it's tempered. So I'm going to go ahead and set this knife up in a Bridgeport, and I'm going to get an end mill, and I'm going to grind the heads of those pins off of there, dig those out of there, and get that piece out of there. That's the first step, and then we'll see where we're going to go from there. So just follow along. This should be a kind of an interesting project. I've never done anything like this before, but like I say, it's more or less right up my alley. It's not something that I'm afraid of. I'm sure it'll turn out just fine. So just follow along, and we'll see how we're going to make out, and stay tuned. Alright, so we got our spring made. We cut it in a Bridgeport, and we just worked on shaping it, trimming it, and fitting it. And I just didn't do enough videos while I was doing it, unfortunately. Just don't always have the ability to grab the video camera when I'm in the middle of something. But anyway, as you can see, it's a perfect copy of the original. I didn't bother with the hole. I'm assuming that hole in there is just for them to work on it when they built it originally. I'm sure that's all that they had that hole for. So the new spring is an exact copy of the old one. The only difference is the new one is made of 4140. I'm not sure what this old one was. I never did a metallurgy test on it. We just worried about the Rockwell, and the Rockwell on that was a 43. Yeah. So this thing will be sent in now that it's fitted and made, and it fits very good. But now that it's fitted, I'll just drop right in there like that. Then that'll be drawn down, clamped down in there, sucked down in there, and then two welds. Those two welds will be put in. Originally it had pins, but we couldn't get to the heads of the pins. They're inside the knife, and we just couldn't reuse those pins. So the spring fits perfectly. It fits great. By the time I polish it, it'll look just like this piece here. But I'm gonna send the spring in now and have it tempered. Now that we've got it fitted, I can send it in and get it tempered, and we'll make it into spring steel. And we'll put it, well, like I say, the original was a 43 Rockwell, so we'll put this, that puts it right in the spring steel range. So we'll get this done to the same Rockwell. And once I get it back from the heat treaters, and it's been tempered. I'll show you what it looks like. It'll look pretty crappy. And then once that's cleaned back up again, we'll take it into the TIG welders, and we'll have them put 2 spots of TIG weld. Basically, we're gonna weld the spring. We're gonna go in through these holes, and we're gonna weld right to the knife, right where the pins, the old pins used to be. We'll go in there and weld this right into the knife. Like I say, unfortunately, we can't repin it, but we can weld it. And once I grind the heads of the welds and metal finish it all you'll see again is 2 little tiny dots, just like there used to be, just like there is there. So this will look great. So we're coming down the home stretch on this. We're going to go and get it welded now, and come back and we'll do the final bit of filing and metal finishing. So this one will be out of here in another couple of days. So anyway, we'll continue, and stay tuned. Alright, so we got our spring back from the heat treaters, and they brought it up to a 43 Rockwell. They tempered it, and so now it's spring steel. This is a piece of 4140, and like I say, I got it basically fitted and shaped, and so now we got it tempered. So now I just need to take it in, and well, I'm going to clean it up first. I'll bead blast it and do the final polishing on it. Well, almost the final polishing. And then we take it back in, and we put 2 drops of weld. We actually have to re-weld it into the knife, because the original pins that were used to hold that in there are no longer available. So we'll have to go in, and we're going to weld through these holes, and weld this directly back onto the knife. And then I'll metal finish the heads. The little bit of weld that's going to be on the top, I'll file that smooth, and I'll polish this, and it should basically look just like the original did. You'll see just 2 little slightly different colored spots, which we did before, and I think we'll be good to go. And hopefully the better metal, this spring should outlast the original. I'm hoping anyway. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up and get it welded in, and we'll see what she looks like at that point. And then we'll just got to do a little bit of metal finishing, and we'll have her wrapped up. So we should have this one back to the customer in a short time now. Alright, so we're a little further along in our German knife. We got the spring made, if you remember correctly, and I got it all fitted and trimmed and all that stuff. Now, we've left it just a hair big. As you can see, it's sticking out just a little bit from the edge of the knife. Left it a little bit proud, because I still need to metal finish it a little bit. We couldn't have it pinned back in like the original was, so we had it welded back in. And if I can get my camera to cooperate, we can show you some very, very, very precision welding. Look at that. Those are actually little beads of weld. Little beads of TIG weld. That's some pretty delicate welding, as you can see. See those little lines, little beads of weld? So anyway, once I grind them down, clean them all down, that'll all be gone. Make them level. Make it all level. Metal finish all this down a little bit. And by the time I polish it, it should basically look like that other piece of spring right there beside it. So that's the whole idea, the whole goal. It works great. The blade's got great snap to it, nice and strong. So that's what we were trying to accomplish. So it works great now. Didn't work before at all. So got herself a nice strong spring again. Hopefully it's better steel. It might last longer. It was all tempered, annealed and tempered, and so we should have a good service life out of that spring. So I'm just going to go ahead and get all that metal finished now and polished, and basically that'll be done for this one. So I'll show you one last video when it's all completed, and we'll see if we accomplish the mission. Okay? Alright, good. Stay tuned. We'll see how it looks. Alright, so we finally got our German Paratrooper knife all done. There's that new spring that had to be installed. See, it fits in there pretty nice. As I explained to you before, I had to have these spots, awful bright here, but these 2 spots originally were pins there and there. You could just barely see them. They were originally pins, and hard to see, but we couldn't reuse the pins, so we had to weld. So we had to have some TIG weld done in there. So I metal finished that and polished it, and so we got a pretty good looking surface now. It may not be exactly as good as a German craftsman did it, but I think it's pretty acceptable. I think it's a pretty decent job. So I didn't damage or compromise any other parts of the knife. The drop blade part, just works off of that, and that's always worked fine, so that's not an issue. But it's always been this blade. This blade, that was the spring that operates that blade. You can see how that spring is moving up there. So as long as, all the stress is on that first, geez, that's hard to see. The stress is on that first pin or rivet right there. You can see it right there. So that's where all the flex is happening, right there. Now, these little weld spots we've got are slightly larger than the original diameter of the pin. We've just had a little bit too much trouble getting good adhesion because we had to weld this spring back into the knife. So the tiny little two little dots that I had there for the welders to get down into was just a little bit too small. We were worried about adhesion, so we ended up opening them up just a hair. And so anyway, so it's fitting. It's important that the spring fit flush all the way along, and that it fits with that spring. And so I'm happy. It all came out really good. It looks good. It's like I say, it had a little bit of plating loss right from the beginning there, but overall it's pretty nice knife. But at least now we got a good, strong. It's got a good snap to it, so that hopefully that spring will last. So a little bit outside of the realm of what Vulcan gun refinishing does, but it was just an interesting project that I thought I'd take on and see how it turned out. So it wasn't a big issue. The next one should go even a little bit faster if we were to do another one, but got a pretty good idea on how to do this now. So I think it turned out pretty decent. So I'm going to call the customer and see what he says, and if he pays me, I guess we're good. So no, it looks good. I'm pretty happy. So anyway, I'll sign off for now, but I just wanted you to see there's more to Vulcan gun refinishing than just guns. If it's metal that needs to be repaired, send it. We can fix it. Okay, good. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.